Ever wonder why the hiss of a can
no longer selling drinks?
shade of red?
The dark logic behind Coca-Cola's global dominance.
Have you ever wondered why, in the smallest village in the Himalayan mountains or in the middle of the Sahara Desert, you can still find...
Have you ever wondered why, in the smallest village in the Himalayas or deep in the Sahara Desert, you can still find the same iconic red bottle? By pure logic, Coca-Cola should have collapsed decades ago. Its core product is carbonated sugar water, criticized by medical science, abandoned by health trends, and extremely expensive to transport worldwide. Yet the opposite happened. Coca-Cola didn't weaken. It became stronger. Today, we're dissecting a business anomaly. We're stepping into the control room in Atlanta to understand a simple but unsettling truth: Coca-Cola is no longer a beverage company. The drinks are merely a facade, a lure, masking a far colder, more calculated money machine underneath. Take notes. What you're about to see is the anatomy of an invisible empire, one that remains resilient even during global economic crises. Part 1. The Asset-Light Business Model. Logistics without owning logistics. The first secret is surprisingly simple: Coca-Cola doesn't actually produce most of the drinks you consume. Academically, this is known as the franchise bottling model. The parent company, the Coca-Cola Company, produces only the concentrated syrup. It then sells this secret formula to local bottling partners across the world. Why is this brilliant? Because Coca-Cola headquarters doesn't worry about fuel costs, truck maintenance, factory labor, or complex distribution networks. All capital-intensive risk is pushed onto local partners. Coca-Cola keeps only two things: intellectual property, marketing power. In reality, Coca-Cola operates like a software company disguised as a consumer goods giant. Part 2. Water Infrastructure Dominance. The quiet control of water. This is the part rarely discussed in annual reports: resource control. To produce 1 liter of Coca-Cola, an average of 2.5 liters of water is required. In many developing countries, Coca-Cola often receives priority access to groundwater, sometimes beyond what local farmers themselves can obtain. Strategically, Coca-Cola isn't selling beverages. It's selling reliable access to drinkable water. Where government infrastructure fails to provide safe drinking water, Coca-Cola steps in as a private solution. A basic human necessity is privatized, and wrapped in cheerful branding. Their dominance isn't about taste. It's about control over the world's water taps. Part 3. The Psychology of Mental Availability. Why do you choose Coke when you're thirsty? Not because it tastes the best, but because it's the first thing your brain remembers. This is called mental availability. Coca-Cola uses a marketing principle known as ubiquity. The goal isn't for you to love the brand, it's to ensure you have no alternative but to see it. Through exclusive contracts with restaurants, stadiums, cinemas, and public venues, Coca-Cola creates a monopoly of choice. Psychologically, they don't sell dark liquid. They sell happiness. This is advanced neuromarketing, linking the instant dopamine spike of sugar to collective memories of family, celebration, and joy. For over a century, Coca-Cola has been programming consumer behavior at a neurological level. Part 4. The Pivot to a Total Beverage Company. The final dark secret is how Coca-Cola neutralizes competition. When a health drink, juice brand, or coffee chain threatens the market, Coca-Cola doesn't compete aggressively. They acquire it. From Costa Coffee to regional mineral water brands, Coca-Cola is transforming into a corporate octopus, controlling nearly everything liquid that enters the human mouth. They know the sugar era will eventually decline. That's why they aggressively buy healthy assets, ensuring that even if you stop drinking soda, your money still flows to them. Investigative analysis: why Coca-Cola rarely loses money. During inflation or economic crises, sugar and plastic prices rise. Yet Coca-Cola headquarters remain stable. Why? Inflation hedge. They sell small volume, high-value concentrate. Shipping costs are negligible compared to final retail volume. Product agnostic system. The same concentrate model is applied to new categories, energy drinks, teas, and beyond. The formula is simple: we create the recipe. You build the factories. You manage the trucks. You absorb the risk. We decide the profit. That's Coca-Cola. Deep dive: the financial architecture behind the concentrate secret. 1. Structurally distorted profit margins, in Coca-Cola's favor. In the bottled beverage industry, profit margins are typically thin. For bottled water companies, net margins often hover between 5 and 10%, eroded by packaging costs, plastic, transportation, fuel, and labor. Coca-Cola operates in a completely different universe. At the corporate level, the Coca-Cola Company consistently reports gross margins exceeding 60%. This is not the result of operational efficiency alone, it is the consequence of architectural design. Here's the core distinction: Coca-Cola does not sell liquids. It sells formulas. The concentrate, the actual product sold to bottlers, is chemically simple, extremely cheap to produce, and incredibly lightweight. Meanwhile, the most expensive components of the beverage business, factories, bottling lines, trucks, warehouses, fuel, and workforce, are owned and operated by someone else. This is not outsourcing. This is risk displacement. Capital expenditure, commodity volatility, labor inflation, and logistics risk are structurally transferred away from Coca-Cola headquarters and absorbed by its bottling partners. The result is a company that appears manufacturing-based to consumers but behaves financially like a high-margin intellectual property licensor. Two, asymmetric symbiosis, control without ownership. At first glance, Coca-Cola's relationship with its bottlers looks mutually beneficial. Bottlers receive exclusive territorial rights, sometimes spanning entire countries or continents, to produce and distribute Coca-Cola products. But exclusivity comes at a price. Coca-Cola headquarters maintains absolute pricing authority over the concentrate. Bottlers do not negotiate. If concentrate prices increase, bottlers absorb the impact immediately, regardless of local economic conditions. This creates an asymmetric dependency. Bottlers cannot switch suppliers. Bottlers cannot reformulate products. Bottlers cannot exit without destroying their own infrastructure. In addition, bottlers are often contractually required to co-finance global marketing campaigns. In other words, Coca-Cola's global brand power is partially funded by the very entities carrying the operational burden. Coca-Cola does not need to own factories to control production. It controls the rules of participation. This is vertical integration without vertical ownership, one of the most underappreciated power structures in modern capitalism. 3. Valuation built on intangible dominance. In traditional manufacturing, corporate value is anchored in physical assets, factories, machinery, land, inventory. Coca-Cola owns remarkably little of that. Instead, its valuation is rooted in intangible assets, primarily brand equity and intellectual property. According to global brand valuation studies, Coca-Cola's brand alone is worth tens of billions of dollars. Financially, this functions as a defensive moat of the highest order. Banks do not lend to Coca-Cola because of its factories. They lend because of its name. This means Coca-Cola's true resilience is not operational, it is reputational. Even in the hypothetical scenario where physical operations collapse, the company could reconstitute itself rapidly through licensing, partnerships, and financing secured by brand credibility alone. Coca-Cola is not valued as a beverage producer. It is valued as a permanent cognitive asset embedded in global culture. So what's the dark secret? There isn't one. Only ruthless efficiency. Coca-Cola proves that to dominate the world, you don't need the best product. You need control over distribution, access to fundamental resources, and permanent space inside the consumer's mind. It's a financial machine that monetizes basic human biology at global scale. Now the question is yours, do you still see that red bottle as just a refreshing drink? Or as a symbol of one of the most efficient capitalist systems ever created? If this analysis reshaped how you view global corporations, subscribe and turn on notifications for sharper business investigations. Leave a comment. Is asset-light control over water ethically acceptable? How dominant is Coca-Cola in your country? How often do you consume their products? And share this video with anyone who still believes Coca-Cola is simply selling drinks. See you in the next Bizwonder investigation.